Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Death Row History Channel. I am your host, Mr. Toad, and in tonight's video, we continue our discussion of the New York Death Commission. This is part 4. Part 3, we covered the deliberations and the subsequent adjournment of the 1887 New York Death Commission. At the end of that commission, they didn't find anything. Like, there was no method chose. However, by 1888, they had a method. This all falls on Dr. Southwick. This is where Dr. Southwick really steps up as a member of the commission, as you will see in this video. We don't know much on Dr. Southwick. His only claim to fame is the introduction, the suggestion of the method that they would ultimately choose, and the design of the apparatus in which they would implement this method. That's it. Like, I wish there was more on him, but there's not. The method they would choose is quite unique. Because the thing is, you've got to understand that in 1888, in New York, there was a war going on. No, not like we think of. There was no fighting, there was no gunfire, there was nothing like that. But it was a war. Like, there was an actual war going on in New York. And what was this war, you might ask? Why, it was the War of the Currents. That's right, the War of the Currents. The battle for the domination of electricity in New York. In this corner, representing the thought and idea of direct current, you have Thomas Edison. And in this corner, representing the idea of the alternating current, you have George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla. Yes, the War of the Currents was in full swing in 1888. They were both vying for contracts to light up the entire city of New York, subsequently light up the entire world, so to speak. And that plays into the New York Death Commission because, remember, Dr. Southwick had witnessed a accidental electrocution where a drunk stumbled into a transformer of a unprotected transformer on the side of one of Thomas Edison's power lines. And the gentleman was almost instantly electrocuted. And Southwick got to thinking, well, if it worked that quickly on this poor sap, maybe we can harness it for electrocution, for a method of execution. So he went back to the commission and he told them what he'd seen, and they were intrigued by the idea. Like, justifiably, they were intrigued. So they started testing it. They brought in animals, they brought in dogs, cats, cows, pigs, even an elephant at one point, to test this theory out. And they would return their verdict to New York saying, "We found our method." And in 1889, I believe, New York would legalize electrocution as their main method of execution. So now we have the method, but we have no apparatus. We have no apparatus for this method. We have just that, the method. We know we're going to be electrocuting people, but we don't know how. That would come through the same process. They deliberated, well, should it be a shelf? Should it be a bed? Should it be a table? While all plausible ideas, and interesting to say the least, it was Dr. Southwick who would give the winning idea. Dr. Southwick, being a dentist from Buffalo, New York, said, why not use a chair? That's right, folks. The New York Death Commission would give us the oldest method of execution currently in use in America. Old Sparky, the electric chair. And in that, we have yet another series of problems. Well, we want to electrocute people. We have we have the apparatus. So that's part of the equation. But what form of electricity will we use? Will we use DC or will we use AC? I mean, it's apples to oranges there. And at this point comes Mr. Edison, who tells the commission, not because he had any ulterior motives here, never that. No, Edison would never try to publicly smear the name of his rival, of his chief competitor, to cost him what progress he had made. No. Edison was a good moral man with good business ethics. But Edison would ultimately tell them, use alternating current. And on the other side of the fence, Westinghouse and Tesla were telling them to use direct current. So Edison would invite them to his workshop in Hyde Park, and he would invite them to his workshop in New Jersey, and he would show them how electricity works, how alternating current would be the preferred method. So they said, it's settled, we'll go with alternating current. So now, we have the method, we have the apparatus, we have the form of electricity. There's still something missing, because they chose to use alternating current, but Westinghouse would not sell them a generator so that they could use alternating current, because he was still set on using DC current for the new death machine. So they went to Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and got a generator for the electric chair. So again, we have the method, we have the apparatus, we have the system that's going to power it. There seems to be one thing missing. What could that be? Oh yeah! The poor sap that's going to sit in the damn thing. Sorry for the language, folks. That would be one William Kemmler, a German immigrant who was illiterate, a fruit peddler, and an alcoholic. It seems to be that one of those things is very prevalent in the history of the death penalty from here on out, but that's beside the point. William Kemmler would be convicted and sentenced to die for the death of his fiancee, common law wife, girlfriend, whatever she was. That is not important. What is important is he, in a drunken rage, hacked her to death with a hatchet. And he then would go to the neighborhood bar and drunkenly say, "I killed her, and I will proudly hang for it." Well, because he was illiterate, he didn't realize that by the time of his arrest, that New York had already switched to electrocution. So no, he would not hang for it. He would be the first conductor in the new electric era of executions. And so he would be convicted to die by electrocution, and ultimately he would be put to death in 1890. There is a lot of details about his execution that I will cover in the next video, because there's just a lot about it. Kemmler's execution went less than perfect. It would rank right up there with some of the more botched executions that you will ever find. But he's not being featured in my series on botched executions because he's the first electrocution. So therefore, it's not botched because they've never done it before. Anyway, folks, this is everybody's favorite mythical creature, the one and only Mr. Toad, saying, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, share, give your thoughts down below. I love hearing with y'all. Interact. If you want to interact with me, just comment. I do reply. But as for this episode of the Death Row History Channel, well, I hope that y'all enjoyed it, but it's midnight in Oklahoma, so I'm gone.